The world of the future is already being built, right now, before our eyes. Giant mirror walls in the desert, cities floating on the ocean, forest megacities, and even digital capitals in the metaverse. Some of them promise paradise, others frighten with their hidden aims. But all of them can change the map of the world so much that you will not recognize it. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. In return, we will delight you with new and interesting videos. Enjoy watching. We move to the Indian Ocean, where among 1,000 coral islands with snow-white beaches and the richest reefs, a project is being prepared, dictated by a harsh reality. The Maldives is one of the lowest-lying countries in the world. The average land elevation here is less than 5 feet above sea level. This makes the country extremely vulnerable in the face of climate change and rising oceans. To preserve both the country and its people, a sustainable floating city project was proposed. It will be a network of interconnected platforms able to rise and fall together with the water level. All homes and buildings will run on renewable energy, solar and wind power. The city structure will be modular, which will allow adaptation to changing conditions. The idea not only protects from floods, but also safeguards coral reefs, preserving the natural environment. However, critics fear that along with eco-friendly solutions, investors and the wealthy may pour into the Maldives, pushing out local residents and turning the project into an elite resort. In the American state of Nevada, entrepreneur Jeffrey Burns conceived of building a smart city in the desert. His company, Blockchains, purchased a parcel of land that received the name Innovation Park, and now they plan to create a space that combines housing, business, and advanced technologies. The project is oriented toward the use of blockchain platforms and cryptocurrencies in everyday life. The creators promise that the city will become an incubator for solutions in clean energy, water supply, and smart management systems. Interestingly, the idea appeared after Burns sold his Ethereum tokens at the peak of their value, earning a significant fortune. Now he is investing these funds in building a city that should become a technological oasis next to giants like Google, Apple, and Tesla. And here is a project born not of ambition or a drive toward futurism, but a fear of an apocalypse. Helsinki, the capital of Finland, has one of the largest bunker systems in the world, designed for a nuclear war. The city has about 5,500 shelters capable of accommodating all 1.3 million residents. These are not just basements. Underground, there are swimming pools, playgrounds, churches, meeting halls, and even art galleries. Such attention to protection is easy to explain. Finland is located next to Russia, and in the past, even belonged to the Russian Empire. There is a law here. Buildings with an area of more than 1,200 square meters are required to have their own bomb shelter. And although most residents take this as a given, the scale of Helsinki's underground world is impressive and at the same time, a little frightening. In the state of Penang, Malaysia, the authorities decided to hold an architectural competition for a new floating city. The winners proposed a bold concept: 3 large artificial islands supported on green concrete pylons. As is proper, everything comes accompanied by the trendy words sustainable and eco-friendly. According to the plan, the city will be as environmentally friendly as possible, with an abundance of green areas, modern energy-efficient technologies, and waste recycling. But critics rightly point out that any construction, even the greenest, requires resources, leaves behind trash, and renders old facilities unnecessary, turning them into waste. On paper, it looks like a step toward harmony with nature, but in reality, this is part of a global trend of endless growth, which on a planet with finite resources cannot continue forever. And here, a rhetorical question arises. Does this project truly care about nature, or does it simply prettily package the traditional race for development? In 2005, Saudi Arabia announced 6 mega projects at once that were supposed to radically change the face of the country. One of them is King Abdullah Economic City. It was announced as a future center of global trade, industry, and logistics. The city was planned in the desert, where there are no natural sources of water and no infrastructure, which in itself required colossal investments. According to the initial intentions, it had to attract gigantic investments, become a hub for international companies, and a platform for industrial production. However, reality turned out to be more modest. The city failed to attract the necessary volume of investment, and in 2018, the population was only about 7,000 people. What was supposed to become a global center turned into a relatively quiet and sparsely populated place. The story of this project is a reminder that even the most ambitious plans do not always resonate with investors and residents. The Egyptian authorities decided that Cairo, over the last decades, had become too noisy, overcrowded, and chaotic. Instead of modernizing the existing capital, they took another path. They began to build an entirely new administrative center right in the desert, only 28 miles east of the old city. According to the plans, the new capital will be able to accommodate from 18 to 40 million residents by 2050. It will be a smart city with the most modern technologies, designed to relieve old Cairo and give residents a new quality of life. On its territory, there will be a huge central park, artificial lakes, about 2,000 schools and colleges, business and cultural districts, a diplomatic quarter, 18 hospitals, and more than 1,000 religious facilities. In addition, the project includes the construction of a large stadium, a theme park, 40,000 hotel rooms, a solar power plant, and an electrified railway. The scale is grand, but the question remains, will this city become a solution to problems, or will it simply create new challenges for the country? In Innisfil, a small town in Ontario, Canada, a new railway station will soon appear, linking it with downtown Toronto. And that became the starting point for a large project called the Orbit. According to the concept, a quiet rural settlement will turn into a modern suburb with high-tech infrastructure. Planners promise minimal car traffic, with an emphasis on public transport, pedestrian areas, and sustainable development. The distinctive feature of the Orbit is the integration of the most modern technologies, from smart streets and buildings to drone ports and parking for self-driving cars. The project is presented as eco-friendly and resident-oriented, but for many, it also symbolizes the reverse side of urbanization, the transformation of small, cozy settlements into faceless technological zones. We move to the foot of Mount Fuji, where right now, a unique city of the future called Woven City is being built. This project belongs to Toyota, and its creators are sure that building a city from scratch is a rare chance to weave into its foundation the most advanced technologies that will connect people, buildings, and transport. On one hand, the concept sounds almost like science fiction, but on the other, there is a slight aftertaste of total control because it is about a smart city where everything is tied to digital systems. Interestingly, despite all the technocracy, the architects decided to use traditional Japanese building techniques. Many buildings here will be made of wood. However, the labor of builders will be replaced by industrial robots, and along the streets, there will be sensor systems, solar panels, and extensive green areas. All this will create an environment where technology permeates every level of life. And although the project promises comfort, for some, it causes slight unease, because when every detail of a city is connected, it is hard not to wonder who exactly controls all this data. Now we move to West Africa, where in 2018, American singer and entrepreneur of Senegalese origin, Akon, announced plans to build a city inspired by the film Black Panther. Akon City was supposed to become a real, living Wakanda, with advanced technologies, sustainable architecture, and an emphasis on the digital economy. One of the central elements of the project was to be its own cryptocurrency, Acoin, which was planned to be introduced into the daily transactions of residents. The city, according to the idea, would include residential complexes, office centers, a university, a hospital, parks, and a coastal resort. It was initially planned that construction would begin soon after the announcement, and already by 2020, the city would start receiving its first residents. But reality turned out differently. Work never started, and now the project has ended up at the center of legal proceedings. And here the question suggests itself. Is it possible today to build a dream city on sheer enthusiasm and cryptocurrency without sinking into bureaucracy and lawsuits? So, straight off the bat, with a project that is not just ambitious, but capable of provoking a real international conflict. China is developing plans to build a completely new island city right in the heart of the South China Sea. The problem is that these waters have long been the subject of territorial disputes, and such a step looks not just bold, but frankly aggressive. Today, the southernmost point of China is officially considered to be the city of Sansha. It is precisely here that the authorities intend to start large-scale construction on Woody Island, Tree Island, and Drummond Island. In their plan, a key national strategic service and logistics base will appear here. For China, this is not the first demonstration of force in this region, but this time the stakes are especially high. We are talking about building a powerful military facility that will become a transshipment point for resupplying the fleet, refueling, and quickly redeploying ships. The South China Sea is one of the busiest sea routes in the world, and any change in the balance of power in this area is instantly reflected in global trade. The strengthening of China's military presence here causes serious concern in the international community, and especially in the United States, which reacts extremely negatively to such moves. So, whatever you call this project, impressive or alarming, its consequences will be felt far beyond the sea. In the Chinese province of Sichuan, in the capital Chengdu, the authorities conceived of building an entirely new district completely free of cars. The project covers an area of 4.6 square kilometers to the east of the existing city and consists of 6 zones that in their structure resemble traditional settlements. Each zone will have its own schools, innovation centers, residential buildings, and administrative buildings, and one will be able to move around them on foot in 10 minutes. The zones will be connected by a smart transport system that will provide quick links with the rest of the city. A special feature of the project is that the architects are inspired not by ultra-modern forms, but by historical models of spatial organization. In a sense, this is a paradox. The most modern solutions today are a return to principles tested over centuries, where everything is close, convenient, and harmoniously integrated into nature. And now we move to a project that does not fit at all in the usual notions of cities. Liberland Metaverse is a completely virtual city. Yes, it exists only in digital space, but it has architecture, streets, and even a real estate market. An architectural studio is handling development, translating the idea of a city into the metaverse. Here, one can buy a plot of land, pay for it with cryptocurrency, and then live in a digital home in the form of an avatar. Walking into virtual buildings, meeting other residents, taking part in events. All this is not in the real world, but online. The project is presented as a new level of freedom and creativity, but it also raises a lot of questions. If a city exists only on servers, can it be considered real at all? Or is it merely yet another platform for trading virtual real estate and digital assets? Nevertheless, interest in this format is growing, and perhaps in the future, we will have entire generations of residents of cities that cannot be touched with one's hands. And now, another bold Chinese idea, but with a completely different, though no less controversial, slant. Imagine an entire city on the water, where beneath the thickness of the ocean there are streets for submarines, and above the surface rise marinas for yachts and terminals for cruise liners. The project was developed back in 2015 and envisaged creating a gigantic structure from prefabricated concrete blocks 150 meters long and 30 meters wide. This autonomous floating complex will be located right in the open sea, have its own port for civilian submarines, a marina for ordinary vessels, and of course, a spacious pier for tourist liners. The developers assure that the city will be self-sufficient, with farms, fisheries, a system for waste collection and recycling, as well as other solutions allowing autonomous living. But if you look at the project through a geopolitical lens, you involuntarily get the impression that behind the facade of a futuristic idea lies a very pragmatic calculation, especially if you recall China's artificial islands built in disputed waters. We move to 2021, when Saudi Arabia presented to the world one of the boldest urban projects in its history. The city, the line, sounds simple, but in fact it staggers the imagination. Instead of a traditional layout, two gigantic parallel skyscrapers stretching for 106 miles through the desert. Their width will be 656 feet, and their height an impressive 1,640 feet. The exterior walls will be clad in mirrored panels that reflect the surrounding landscape, giving the structure a fantastic appearance. The developers promise that 9 million people will be able to live here, and the infrastructure will include everything, from parks and waterfalls to air taxis, robotic assistants, and even an artificial moon. The city is supposed to cross the northwest of Saudi Arabia and reach the Red Sea coast. This project is part of the Neom megacity, where the stake is placed on advanced technologies, autonomy, and an absolutely futuristic design. But in the dry climate of the desert, this looks like a challenge to nature itself, and the question of how viable all this will be remains open. In southeastern India, on the banks of the Krishna River, a large project is unfolding to build a new capital of the state of Andhra Pradesh, the city of Amaravati. The development area is a colossal 217 square kilometers, and the main idea is to make it one of the most sustainable and eco-friendly cities in the world. The central element will be a green spine, 5.5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, inspired by Central Park in New York. The city will have buildings with solar panels, bicycle lanes, electric transport, water taxis, and an irrigation system using recycled water. Implementation will require $6.5 billion. To obtain land, in 2015, a plan was launched under which farmers gave up their plots and in return were to receive back 25 to 30% of the land already with infrastructure. By 2017, the authorities had secured almost the entire necessary tract, and more than 30,000 people had already moved here, including 12,000 civil servants. In the future, the city is supposed to create about 400,000 jobs, with 60% of its territory occupied by green areas and bodies of water. But architects face a serious task: preserving the traditional way of life under the conditions of a rapidly growing megacity. In the desert region between Nevada, Arizona, and Utah, American billionaire Mark Lohr decided to build from scratch the city of his dreams. He called it Telosa. According to the concept, it will be a modern 15-minute city where everything necessary, from work and shops to parks, is within a 15-minute walk. The project envisages a rejection of private cars in favor of pedestrian and cycling routes, and all energy supply will be provided by renewable sources, solar panels, and systems for the purification and reuse of water. The creators promise that there will be a special system for selecting residents, supposedly to form the ideal community. The city is planned to be built on absolutely empty territory, turning dry desert into a prosperous oasis with advanced technologies and an eco-friendly way of life. But skeptics note, will it end up a closed and isolated settlement, accessible only to the chosen few? In Southeast Asia, in the largest archipelagic country in the world, Indonesia, the implementation of one of the region's largest projects has begun. Here, they plan to build a new city called Nusantara, which is to become the country's new capital. Indonesia consists of thousands of islands, and the current capital, Jakarta, has long been under enormous strain. Overpopulation, pollution, traffic jams, and in addition, the city is literally sinking due to subsidence of the ground and rising sea levels. Therefore, the authorities decided to move the capital to the island of Kalimantan, into the interior of the archipelago. The project is valued at about $35 billion, with the state planning to finance only about 20% of this amount. The rest should come from private investors. According to the plan, by 2045, about 1.9 million people will be relocated here. The stated goal is to make Nusantara the first city in the country that runs 100% on renewable energy. However, there are many challenges on the way to this goal, from the difficulties of building infrastructure in a sparsely populated area to risks for the environment, since the region has extraordinarily rich flora and fauna. The project's realization will be a test of whether it is possible to build an eco-friendly megacity without destroying unique nature. In a Chinese megacity, one of the country's largest internet giants presented a project for a new district called Net City. It will be a smart quarter designed to combine in one space offices, residential areas, places for leisure and entertainment, as well as parks and embankments. The special feature of Net City is the complete absence of private cars. Everything here is designed for pedestrians and public transport, and the infrastructure will operate on the basis of digital technologies. The creators promise that the city will function around the clock, and all systems, from lighting management to traffic regulation, will be integrated into a single network. Of course, the project is presented as human-centered and sustainable. But critics ask a natural question: who will ultimately own all the data collected from residents? Will such a city turn into a space where a digital big brother monitors every step a person takes? In the province of Guangxi, in the south of China, a project is being developed for a city which, according to the architects, will become the world's first forest city. The idea is to build residential and administrative buildings completely immersed in greenery, which should absorb carbon dioxide and purify the air. According to the concept, every house, office, and even school will be covered with vegetation. In total, this means millions of trees, shrubs, and plants. The architects assure that this will help combat air pollution and create a more harmonious living environment. However, ecologists and urban planners remind us that forest ecosystems are a complex and fragile mechanism that has existed for centuries without human interference. Settling the territory with buildings and roads will inevitably change its balance. It turns out that even when disguised as green construction, the project still intrudes into the natural environment, and the consequences of such interference are difficult to predict. In South Korea, in the coastal city of Busan, they are preparing an answer to the challenges of global warming and rising sea levels. The Oceanics Busan project is a prototype of a floating city capable of adapting to climate change and sheltering people who have lost their homes due to floods. The city will consist of modular platforms that can be connected and expanded as needed. It is designed to use renewable energy sources, waste recycling systems, and on-site food production. The creators state that Oceanics Busan could be populated already by 2030. But critics see in this examples of disaster capitalism, situations where large companies profit from solving problems that they themselves exacerbate. After all, if the climate is changing due to corporate activity, is it truly profitable for them to fight global warming when they can make money on its consequences? That is all for today. Some projects amaze with their technological scope. Others spark debates and concerns, and still others are already today becoming symbols of the new world in which we will live. The only question is what this world will turn out to be: a utopia where technologies serve people, or a reality where cities become instruments of control, power, and business.